Hey, welcome to the first edition of KNN. We are going to be live. I think we're a few minutes late, but of course, this first show, we had a little bit of technical difficulties. But we got a great show planned for you tonight.
We absolutely did not get distracted reading our new White Dwarfs. That did not happen at all.
Well, and I think that's the first thing we're going to talk about. So on KNN, we bring you the news as it comes from games and all things tabletop games. We don't do a lot of video game discussion, but we do spend a lot of time with our tabletop games and doing all of those things that we love to do on the tabletop. Warhammer, Magic the Gathering, RPGs, a variety of them, Dungeons & Dragons, not to say the least. We'll be talking a little bit about a new expansion for that today as well. And we'll just want to take a minute, and we're going to pause, and we'll be right back. Sorry about that delay. We're back. Checking out the White Dwarf, though, getting back to that, as we talk about the things that we go over on the show, we are going to start with something that's kind of exciting for me is the Ynnari Army that has come in the new White Dwarf, the May 2019 edition White Dwarf. And the Ynnari are a race or an army, as it were, that can kind of pull from many of the Xenos armies, Drakari, Eldar, and Craft Worlds. Sorry, I'm going to correct myself, but the Eldar and the Harlequins. And so that's what excites me, is being able to pull from all three. And the big news in this kind of codex, or I guess index, that came out in the White Dwarf is, and from what I've been reading online, what everybody's saying is, Ynnari are broken. They're dead. They're never coming back. And I think it's an example of overkill in the fact that Games Workshop had to change the army because it was winning all the tournaments, mostly because gamers are as gamers are, and they found a way to tweak it so bad that it broke the system. And I think that's not Games Workshop's intent, of course, but that's what was happening on your competitive scene. And this fixes that. And then from that, I think you're hearing the outcry of those players, correct me if I'm wrong, who are screaming, they're dead, they're never going to be played again, they killed the army. And I personally don't agree with that. And I know Chaos doesn't. No. So what are your thoughts on that? Those rampant statements that these guys are dead.
Okay, I'm a fluff player first, and I'm a competitive player second. And there's different metas out there, and the tournament meta is very different than like what we see at our LGS. And so we never saw the Ynnaris being a broken army here. Actually, no one really plays them locally. I think you're the only player. Knight's the only one who plays them here.
And I actually haven't even played them yet. I play Harlequins mostly. Yeah.
Harlequins. Having said that, though, I've seen the lists that like make the competitive scenes with like a bunch of Dark Reapers and things like that, and using the strength from death to get the soul burst and get extra shots and just trounce other armies. And I'm glad that's gone, honestly. Those kind of lists to me are boring to play. I'm probably going to offend some people saying that, but I like armies to be thematic, and I'm actually really excited about Ynnari. I had bought the Triumvirate of the Ynnari back when it first came out. The models are gorgeous. I was looking forward to painting them because that's what I do. I'm a painter. And so I put it all away because the army just looked boring to me after I kind of looked through it a little bit. This new incarnation of it, way more exciting. Way more exciting to me. I just think one of the changes, even when we talk about this, the big change, I think, is the fact that the old Ynnari had, when they got their strength from death rule, they gave up something really big for it, like the Dark Eldar.
Well, let's talk about that really fast. The major change they did is they took that soul burst action, which I believe read something like anytime a unit's killed on the board, you could pick a unit in your army to take an action, a move action, a shooting action, or a fight or a charge action, any of that. And so it was really strong. And I think what Chaos was alluding to is you would kill somebody and your Dark Reapers would obliterate another unit, and then they would go. You would do that as many times as you can with all your
Go down
Dark
the line,
Reapers.
Dark Reaper 1 shoots, kills a unit, Soul Burst itself shoots, kills another unit, Soul Burst the unit next to the next you kill a unit, goes down the line.
And if you played with Dark Reapers, that's pretty effective and a legit tournament strategy. So we won't fault those guys. But the major change is that Soul Burst action is no longer reading that way. It reads now if a unit is slain on the board for the rest of the turn, all of your units fight first in the fight phase.
Yes.
Which actually is pretty exciting for me. I play a lot of shooty armies, so when I build my Ynnari coming up in the General's Journey, I'm excited about that, by the way, we're going to see a lot more fight actions, and I think that's really exciting for me. And then in addition to that, if you have a unit, say like Howling Banshees, who already fight first in the fight phase, then they get +1 to hit. So if they already fight first in the fight phase, they get +1 to hit. And so I think a lot of people are freaking out and doing that. Ynnari are dead because they broke this Soul Burst action. But when I was online and reading, I think a lot of people misread the rules. And actually, even I did, I think, at first a little bit. I was like, yeah, that's kind of disappointing, but I'm excited to mix the army still, so it doesn't matter. It's still cool. And then Chaos texted me. It was late one night, and he's like, hey, listen, I think I found something. And what was that?
Yeah, so in the previous, like I was saying, in the previous iteration of the rules, when you gained that Soul Burst ability, you did so at the expense of your battle-focused rule for Eldar, where they can advance and still kind of being stationary. The Dark Eldar lost Power from Pain, where they'd get a second, ignore wounds roll and various abilities that would amp up as the game went on. And Harlequins lost Rising Crescendo, where they can advance and still charge. And those are all pretty important abilities to each of those armies, but they sacrificed that for the Soul Burst rule they used to have. And now what they're giving up instead is they're giving up, for lack of a better word, their chapter trait, like the craft world that they belong to, or the cabal they belong to, or the witch cult they belong to, or the mask that they belong to. They give up that trait instead for this new strength from death ability. And it unifies them as an army, but they still keep their individual unit rules, so you still keep battle focus for your craft world units. You still keep your Power from Pain for your Drukhari units. You still keep your Rising Crescendo for your Harlequin units. And it makes each of your units still feel like they perform differently within this unified army, I think. And that's a lot more exciting for me as a player, to be able to really try some different tactics on the board, to see how these units interact together, working together. And then, of course, you can throw in the Visarch, you can throw in Evane, or whatever her name is. I don't speak Eldar, so I'm going to mispronounce it.
Yeah, they got some weird spellings.
And then, of course, you can have the Avatar, the new Avatar, who's just a great model. And I think it has a lot of potential to look really interesting on the table as well.
Yeah. So I'm super excited. A couple other things just on the army as we talk about. They can't take the... I read a lot of people freaking out about, my Psykers aren't going to have any Psyker abilities, but you actually get them. You just have to take the Ynnari ones only. You don't get to pick from the Eldar. If you're Eldar, detachment, you don't get to pick Eldar. You just take Ynnari.
Yeah, you're not getting your Runes of Battle anymore.
Yeah, the runes and that kind of stuff. So, but there's a lot of really cool things. One of my favorites, and I'm just going to mention a couple of them because they're in the new index, codex, whatever we're calling it. I think they're labeling it an index because it's not quite long enough. The Song of Ynnari is the shuriken pistol that a hero can take as a relic of Ynnari. There's also 6 other ones, so they have that in there. There's a Revenant Discipline for the Psykers, and those are the things that they can take. And there's actually some really cool psychic abilities for the Psykers of Ynnari, and they can all take that, so I think that was also very cool. And then also the Warlord traits. They get their own Warlord trait, just kind of like you would expect. They have their own stratagems that they can use, and again, something to note that I believe changed is you can't use stratagems from the other armies at all. You're disqualified from doing that. In addition, you can't take Eldar, Dark Eldar, Harlequin special characters in a Ynnari detachment. And again, this was another thing I was reading online. People were, they got rid of the special characters. It's you can still take them, but they have to be in a non-Ynnari detachment, which can be part of your army. And then the trivert of you need can be any of those characters can go, and they can also ride in all of the Eldari vehicles.
They can, they can ride in any Eldari transports. It should be interesting. I'm curious to see what it brings to the table. Like I said,
you're going to see what it brings to the table.
Our LGS is a lot more fluff-based anyway, and we do a lot of narrative campaigns, and so I think this will be a really fun army to see it out there and see how it plays out. And I love the fact that Games Workshop has put armies like this out there and like advanced the narrative of 40K. And just everything they've done to push 40K forward. I've really loved everything since this edition's dropped. So.
Yeah, and we kind of left that off, and I know Chaos is a big fluff guy, and I like the fluff too, not as much as he does, but there is like 4 or 5 pages of that for those who are into the fluff, and I've read it, and I'm into it as well, but we're probably not going to talk much about that on the show. Just kind of covering the rules, what we found in the changes, what we're seeing a little bit online, I think is. Been very negative, but on the flip side of that for me, I think I'm excited more to play the army than I was before. Again, I've been playing Harlequins, so I love the Rising Crescendo ability, and having that now with those guys in a Ynnari army is pretty exciting for me. So those are the things that you're going to see. There's also a rework of the main 3 characters, the Yvrane, the Visarch, and your Incarn. I'm going to say, the Incarnate, the demon guy of death. Their abilities actually didn't change much, though.
No.
They kept most of them. They were pretty strong
They're
before.
a little different, but
there's a few things that change, but most everything is relatively the same. The big question that I was reading and have seen is, does your demon of death, does he pop up all over the board and popcorn on the board? And yes, he does. So that rule stayed intact, and he can move all around as well. But that's all in the May 2019 White Dwarf. Pick one of those up at your LGS, your local game store. That's what LGS stands for. For those of us that don't know, and check that out. Ynnari out now. I guess we're about a week behind on that, but we're getting things off the ground on the show. And for me, that was kind of hitting personally home because I plan to play Ynnari. So any questions, thoughts on those things, you can throw it up in chat. And when we get to the end, we'll do a Q&A if we have some time today. The show's going to be a little bit shorter today as we're setting up our studio here for RPG Out of the Box, which is coming up right after KNN. So stay tuned for that, and we'll talk about that again. But what else is coming out from Games Workshop?
While we're talking about the Ynnari,
oh, just kidding.
Let's talk about the flip side of the Ynnari. That's what we're going to go into. Let's talk a little bit about Slaanesh.
Okay.
So, of course, the Eldar on the flip side of them.
Oh, that reminds me. One thing they did lose was the ability to take a solitaire. From the Harlequin army, which is, by the way, a very powerful character. So anyway, that's just a side note as we talk about Slaanesh, because he's a little bit of a follower of Slaanesh, I believe.
A little bit. I used to have a license plate on a car that said Slaanesh once upon a time.
Sad days.
Purple Mini Cooper. It's pretty cool.
Hedonites. Take the message. I don't know. I work with the guy. I don't know.
Hedonites of Slaanesh. So Slaanesh finally gets his or her own in Age of Sigmar. With a new army book. I just finished reading it just the other night. I think it's a pretty solid book. I think it gives a lot of love back to Slaanesh. And in the fluff, I think they paint Slaanesh in a new light that's really interesting, at least to me as a longtime reader. I'll be honest, like first edition Age of Sigmar, I wasn't that into. I didn't read the fluff that much. I tried to get into it. I tried to love it. I'm an old school Warhammer fantasy guy. And when Warhammer went away and Age of Sigmar came out, it was a bad breakup for me. And I had a lot of armies on square bases, and it took a few months for me to see the light, to play some Age of Sigmar, come back, and have fun with it. But I did, and I love Age of Sigmar now. 40K is my first love as a war game, really. I started off with BattleTech, but 40K was really the game I got into. But Age of Sigmar is a contender, and that's a big statement coming from me on this. I got massive 40K armies. This book, however, like I said, brings the love back to Slaanesh. Slaanesh this is the last book, right? We got all the other Chaos Gods. We got
they
Khorne,
just
we got
redid
Nurgle,
Khorne,
we got
so
Tzeentch.
that's new, and the other ones are all new. So
yeah, and we get our final Greater Demon model finally, and the new Keeper of Secrets. That is a fantastic model. We have some new demonic heroes coming out. The harp lady, I can't remember what she's called now.
The Enchantress. She's right. Oh, no, other way on the screen. Over here. We put her up. She's an old model. She came out in the Wrath and Rapture box, actually. And I know here locally it was, that's the greatest model ever. So we put her up on the screen because, and I'm not a Slaanesh follower, so don't sue me for that, but I love that model.
So to not deviate too far here, but like the story on the
you're going to tell me about
right?
that.
So she disguises herself as whatever race of whatever town she infiltrates, and she goes in and she like tricks all the musicians into, she's their muse. She's going to go in and inspire them, and she lures them down darker and darker paths until they all like take their own lives or just become corrupted by chaos. And then the one who is the last one standing is the one she blesses the most, and then turns into her harp. And so there's a still living harp, and then she goes out on the battlefield and plays that harp, pulling at their literal heartstrings until they expire from it, or she goes in one big display of musical prowess and makes their heart explode. So, you know, the perils of following Slaanesh.
You like the army. I don't know what
They're
to
a very
say about
disturbing
that.
army. They're a lot of fun. The new Endless Spell models look fantastic. Each one is themed towards one of the different...
They're down below here?
Yeah. Each one's themed towards one of the different factions you can play in the book, and each one conveys its own style of play, its own unique rules. And this is a discussion that came up through the day, too, with us. Knight and I were talking about Age of Sigmar, and this just shows how newbie we are sometimes at some of these games. I was like, well, can you take Chaos Warriors and put them in this army? Can you take Slaves to Darkness models, give them a Marcus Slaanesh, and put them in this army in this edition? And we had to do some digging through some books. And the answer is absolutely yes, you can. Any model that has the keyword Slaanesh can be put in this army. So if you are a Slaves to Darkness fan already and you want to join the correct side of the Chaos War, then choose your mark properly, paint some purple and pink on your models, and put them on the battlefield.
I'm bringing my corn demons, and we're going to fight a Slaanesh. Watch for that in a battle report coming soon.
It'll come.
I've got to get them painted, though, because Chaos won't let me put anything on the board for this unless it's painted, which is fair. That's
Also,
totally
don't
fair.
be fooled. I have a giant Nurgle army, too, so...
Aren't they buddies, though? Like of the Chaos Gods?
That just takes us to a disturbing place.
Oh, okay. Exciting, though. Check that out. Those are already
last
out,
week,
actually.
right?
Yeah,
last
those
week's
came out
releases.
last week.
So we had a chance to go over it. But coming out this week is a new box set called Loon Curse. And I'm really excited about this box set.
Me too, but for the opposite side.
Well...
Oh, you're excited about both.
I
You have
played-
like every army, though, so whatever.
I'm a painter first, right? So I have a Sylvaneth army painted up already, and I started some Gloomspite Gits because I love painting goblins. I'm gonna hopefully be live streaming painting some goblins very soon.
Next week.
And this box set is 2 armies I already play, so like it's a win-win proposition for me. I can't go wrong with it.
Let me ask, though. Have they made a box set that doesn't have 2 armies you already play?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Fair then.
Yes. It happens very
One?
rarely. Yes.
Yeah, there's been one. Okay.
Yeah, there's been one. All right, so well, tell us about Sylvaneth. You're new. You're starting Sylvaneth.
I'm going to start Sylvaneth for Age of Sigmar. It's an army that's always kind of been on the back of my mind for playing in Age of Sigmar. I kind of am the opposite a little bit of Chaos in the fact that I played old school fantasy, and I played the heck out of it when it first came out. I really liked it, and then it kind of 40K. I steered into 40K, and I liked that a lot better with the movement, and I didn't have to do the trays, and it got too tedious. And so actually, when Age of Sigmar came out, I had stopped playing fantasy, and Age of Sigmar was super exciting for me. Sylvaneth, I think, was one of the first armies that they released for it, one of the second, something like that.
Yeah.
It was
'cause,
early.
I mean, they dropped the Khorne Bloodbound and they dropped the Stormcast in the
Right.
starter box, and then Sylvaneth were one of the first new
After
armies.
that.
Like kind of a reimagining of the Wood Elves of old.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Fire Slayers came out about the same time, and the Fire Slayers were the old Troll Slayers, the old Dwarven Troll Slayers.
So they were always, at that point they came out, I was like, oh, I should play those. And then I stopped playing some tabletop games at that time, at that particular time, and I never picked them up. But I did when I started playing at our LGS here. The first few games I played actually were against Sylvaneth, and I really like the army. I love the concept of the Wildwood. And the new, I tell you what really inspired me is, and we're going to talk about this game too, but Underworlds from Games Workshop, they released the Sylvaneth Warband, and those models I thought were just spectacular. And we'll cover those
models are
in
so
another
cool.
session.
Once again, painter first, right? So
yeah.
I got to see those models put together for the first time, and I'm like, I probably have to buy this box set now.
Yeah.
Just seeing what the models look like, the sculpts are amazing. They're super dynamic and how they're posed, and you got some new options on the tree revenants that they never had before, like the giant axe on the guy and the bow. Yeah, just really cool stuff.
So that probably pushed me over the edge, because I know when we were doing orders and talking about that, we I said, nah, don't worry about getting me one of those boxes. And then that came out. I saw those models. I built them for Underworlds, which is a game I'm actually really in love with right now. And I'm going to go ahead and do Sylvaneth. I love the Arch Revenant, which is down right here. Whoa, I'm going to learn how this works. Opposite. Down right here, the Arch Revenant. I think the model is absolutely killer. I don't really have a bunch of interest in the goblins. Forgive me, goblin players. I've never had a ton of interest because I know Chris is excited. But really excited about the book to see the models and get that army actually out on the table. So the lore behind Sylvaneth, I've been reading a lot of it with the Wildwoods and the rules that they can use them in. Crossing my fingers, Games Workshop, for a new battle tome. That would be rad.
That'd be good.
Hopefully that's kind of on the way following this box set, which I think has been kind of tradition. So if we get something early, some news early, we'll try to get that on the show as quickly as possible too. Hopefully as we grow and develop the stream, we get some more ins from some of our distributors and know some of the news so we can share it with you. But so totally excited about Sylvaneth. What's the other half of the box though?
All right, so we got our goblins, right? Now called the Gloomspite Gits. And it is a squig-themed army, which, if you don't know what squigs are, they're just these fungoid creatures that the goblins, like, raise. They're all teeth and legs, and they're just a menace to any other race out there, but the goblins train them? We'll use that word, train. They're just, there's a formation actually in the book called the Squigalanche, and you just take all the squig units and just run over your opponent with them. And goblins are notoriously weak and cowardly, but you put them mixed with these squigs, and they just become like this force of destruction. And they have a new model, their new general model. How do I figure this out? There we go, right there, right? The Loon King or Loon Boss riding his giant squig. And just a fantastic miniature. I'm looking forward to painting mine. This box set is already sold out on Games Workshop. We were warned this week that it was probably going to be it's probably a one and done rotation. So once it's gone, it's gone. So get to your local game store, get your pre-ordered now, get on for that, because I think we figured out it's around $250 worth of models in this box set for about a $160 price tag. So find a friend, split it if you're only interested in one army. We're definitely got to get these models painted up and on the table. We got to get playing some games. Worst comes to worst, I'll buddy up with Knight and I'll break out my Sylvaneth. I got a really cool cherry blossom themed Sylvaneth army painted up.
What are you saying? I don't paint fast enough?
I'm saying get yours painted too, and we'll team up against somebody else.
Oh, I got to paint mine. Okay.
We'll get Zero. Zero's one of the other guys who's going to be on one of our shows. Zero's talking about getting into the Gloomspite too, and we'll get him to paint up his, and we'll do some fun battles and stuff. So
yeah, we'll see those, and the rules will hit. I think next we have rules on most of the models, but for the new guys, we'll
the Arch Revenant gets rules with the box set.
Yeah, we'll highlight those next week for you on KNN. So
what else we got? We're starting to run out of time here. We got another show starting at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, we might go over a little bit though, so they'll have to just wait because we got a little late start. You have to just be okay.
Fair enough. So let's throw.
We
I think that's our Games Workshop stuff, right? Like that's all of our GW stuff.
Yeah.
So let's talk a couple RPGs really quick. We're going to be doing some RPGs. Tonight we're going to have some Dungeons and Dragons going. So Dungeons and Dragons has a new adventure coming out called Saltmarsh, right? Ghost of Saltmarsh, I believe, is is the title.
Yes. Yeah, that's the book. It comes out May 21st. I saw it at Gamma. I was able to go to a Gamma this year, and they talked a little bit about it. It's got a sea setting, as you can kind of see from the pictures. It's boats and pirates. Is what they alluded to. It's an adventure. It's an adventure book.
Yes.
But it does have some extra rules in it as well, from what I understand. So all art covers, like you see over there, are in limited supply. So again, make sure you visit your local game store, your LGS, to get those, and probably get them pre-ordered, I would guess, because they are an allocated product. But really excited about that. On May 21st, when that comes out, we'll be definitely having a section of the show for that, because that's those kind of things are
love
pretty
the new books.
for us.
They do fantastic layouts on them.
I love the new
really
artwork books.
It's a throwback
great.
too. I mean, Saltmarsh is an old first edition adventure, and so we got kind of that throwback going with it as well. Should be really interesting to see what key elements they decided to keep and what they dropped behind. I'm an old school D&D player, been playing since first edition, so I love seeing these reimaginings of these classic adventures, like the Tomb of Annihilation.
Yeah.
One
of my favorites.
The Elemental Evil one that they did, the Prince of the Apocalypse. Some great adventures.
That was okay.
It
was good.
I ran that one for a while.
But yeah, we'll have more on that one when the book actually drops on the 21st of May.
Some other just RPG announcements we'll go over really quick. Catalyst Games announced this week ShadowRun 6th edition is coming. Kind of an exciting thing for me.
Hey, okay, I gotta say this. Super excited. ShadowRun's always been one of my favorite games.
Right.
But 3rd edition is still the best Shadowrun there was. My opinion. You can go.
I'm not going to argue with him on that. I'm not. I love Jason Hardy and the design team for Catalyst. They're great guys. I've got to meet them before, and just fantastic people overall. Yeah. I don't want to say anything bad about 4th edition. I played a little bit of 4th. I didn't stick with it. I played 5th, played quite a bit longer in 5th. I think 5th is really was an improvement over 4 by a long shot. I love a lot of things 4th brought to the table in terms of wireless internet for like updating Shadowrun to what our real technology's gotten to, right? And so I'm curious to see what they do with 6. I'm one of those guys. I'm not a grognard player. I'm not one of those guys that like I'm going to sit and say first edition D&D is the best. I'm not that. I love new editions of games when they come out. Like I get really excited to see what they're doing with it, where they're going to take the story. Sometimes they live up to the hype I set for myself. Sometimes they don't. So I'm really curious on that. But not a lot of information right now, other than it's been announced. Starter set's supposed to drop sometime in June. The rest of the game's going to drop sometime else this summer. I'm guessing Gen Con. Gen Con's usually when the big game companies drop their new releases. So, and we'll be there, by the way. We'll be at Gen Con this year. So
come visit us, or we won't have a booth.
We'll be wandering. You'll see us.
Wander around.
You'll see us.
Maybe you'll see us. Maybe we'll be famous by then.
Yeah, who knows? We'll have like at least 10 followers. And then the other big announcement too, which has been going on for a while, is Pathfinder 2nd edition. And this is an edition that is 12 followers. Thank you. This is an edition that is 11 years in the making, right? Like Pathfinder's been around for I think 11 years now, and it is dropping at Gen Con. It's also dropping in LGSs at the same day, so August 1st. It's been announced. Wayne Reynolds, the man, one of my favorite fantasy artists out there, is doing all the artwork for it. We played beta test here in store and had a lot of fun with it. At least one of the guys who's in ImmersionRPG coming this Thursday at 7 o'clock played in it as well. He's playing Omboth, the paladin in that game. So he's a beta tester for Pathfinder. We had a lot of fun with it. I'm super excited. I love Pathfinder, but I love the changes they've made. So yeah, that's kind of the RPG news I think we have right now.
Yeah.
And I think
we'll showcase those. We got what's the last thing?
Let's talk the big thing.
Is that War of the Spark?
Dude, War of the Spark is big.
It's huge.
Okay.
If maybe it is, we live in a smaller community, as I'm sure eventually everybody will find and know. But so sometimes I think we kind of get maybe the short end of the stick. Sometimes we're
in a really big community with like really spread out and large land mass with very few people.
We don't have a lot of people, but that's okay with us. So, but anyway, the War of the Spark is the newest set in Magic: The Gathering probably the greatest card game in the history of card games, with the history that it's had and those kind of things.
CCG's definitely the biggest
Yeah,
one
the
out there.
CCGs. It's just a fantastic game, and we'll talk a lot of Magic. We got a whole day set up aside for it, but let's just give some War of the Spark some props. I think a lot of people are loving the set. Like I said, we sold out of all our boxes, which we haven't done for the last 2 sets. They put, I mean, for me, it was like, okay, I should have thought of this as a no-brainer. Should have bought more boxes, because I keep saying that. But they put 36 Planeswalkers in it. It's going to be good, I guess, and it did. I think it lived up to the hype that they put out for it.
And then they threw this massive curveball at us, right? Because they said, hey, you know what? We're limiting the foreign language boxes available in the U.S.
Oh yeah, the Japanese boxes.
But then the Japanese set got alternate art with like a 50% drop rate for all the Planeswalkers, with some anime style and other Japanese art styles and everything. And of course, the demand in the U.S. exploded, and so Japanese boxes are just the thing.
They're allocated.
And we will be doing a box opening of one soon.
Yes, that's coming with the box we got. We're gonna box open that and do it live stream here on Twitch. We'll get back to you when that will happen.
Yep.
But War of the Spark, again, a lot of cool concepts. I think you're going to see a lot of modern cards come out of it. Standard, everybody at least here is excited to play Standard. Hopefully for longer than a week. And I know when I was at Gamma, that was always a conversation: is how can we fire up Standard and keep it alive and keep it going and motivate, the guys and the gals to buy more current cards. Obviously, a business model for a while, and War of the Spark is going to do that. I think, at least for the short term. They are, at least from our distributors, they're kind of out. And hopefully looking for the wave 2 of that. We actually have a few boxes coming in this weekend, but I think they're all spoken for. But with the addition of all the Planeswalkers, and again, we have a whole show dedicated to it, so we're kind of just glossing over that because on the Friday show we'll have a couple of players talking about what they like, some of the cards that are in there that they enjoy playing with, and how they've added them to their decks and how they think that'll impact, especially the modern scene. With Modern Horizons coming out here, and I believe it's June. We should see some shakeups in Modern. I think I'm kind of throwing in my hat to say Wizards is trying to shake that up, because what's Modern? You buy a deck and you can play it forever because it doesn't change that much. And so hopefully we'll see that. But War of the Spark is big news. It hit record sales, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, from the Wizards stuff.
I know distributors nationwide are running out of it or out of it already. So yeah, it's
So we'll see that in wave 2. And again, we'll have more on War of the Spark for you. If not this Friday, every Friday after that. So again, we'll see if it's going to come on this Friday.
So we'll wrap up here, and we'll kind of tell you the plan for the rest of the weekend and tonight. Don't leave just yet. We are going to be doing RPG out of the box here at 7 o'clock Mountain Time. We have,
we're close to that. It'll probably be closer to 7:15, 7:20.
And that's going to be, we're going to be going through some D&D 5th edition, the starter set, with a group of relative new players. So that's going to be a lot of fun to come in and watch. And then tomorrow we're planning and plotting and figuring out the next moves. But Thursday we're going to have at 7 o'clock ImmersionRPG. And that's a game I'm going to be running with a group of players. Knight's in that one as well. My own campaign, my own setting, D&D 5e still. Should be a lot of fun. We'll see how that one goes.
I'm super excited for that. But I keep getting threats that I'm going to die, so hopefully not. But I guess that'll be up to him.
And then Friday, if we can manage it, we're going to have Planestalker at 6 o'clock, which is going to be just talking about the state of Magic. And then at 7 o'clock, once we have the local store here, Heroic Realms, is going to have this Friday Night Magic. We will be showcasing Table 1 through the whole tournament, and it's called Ready Table 1, and we'll be doing that as well. So
a lot of our guys are super excited about that. So just to wrap up, we got follow us.
So what's the format Friday?
Friday's format is Modern.
There we go.
We're excited because everybody wants to play Modern, even though it doesn't count anymore. Anyway, we'll get into that probably on Planestalker on Friday. But follow us. We got Chaotic Night Network. Chaotic with a K, Night without a K. on Twitch.
Which
If
you're
you're here,
watching right
great,
now.
but you're probably watching. So, but if you haven't followed us, follow us. We would love to see that. We want to have a lot of people watching.
You can
know why, we'll
follow
just
us
leave
on
it at that.
Twitter. Chaos KNN and Night KNN are both on there.
We're
So
starting to get into that social media. I think both of us are kind of
We're very
just
new.
diving into the Twitter world, so we're going to give that a shot and take a look. But we've already got some, and Chaos is like twice as popular as he was yesterday. So
Yeah.
he was really excited about
The
that
low
today.
bar.
And then also a couple of things that we're going to have in the show going forward. One, a Q&A. So get ready for that. We probably won't have time for it today. So in chat, we want to do some Q&A and answer your questions. Everybody always tells me that's dangerous, but we're going to do it anyway because we don't care. And so we're totally going to have that. And then also tweet us what you want to hear about, or you can email us as well. You can email me, Knight at chaoticnight.com, with ideas, what you want to hear. I don't even mind if you critique the show because I think it would be good for us. We would love to hear what you guys want, what you liked, what you didn't like. We're too crazy, we're too mundane, whatever we want to do, and we kind of go from there. So let us know, but definitely give us a follow if you would, and we will see you back here. No, that would be a copyright issue. Same time, though, at 6 o'clock on Tuesday, and we'll try not to be 5 minutes late because everything should be up and running. And I would like to say that if the Ynnari are dead, it's probably better for them because they follow the god of the dead.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited to see that
They're
when
just
you
working
see our
to bring
general's
about
journey.
his master plan.
Yeah, we'll be there. 6 o'clock next week. Follow us everywhere that you can follow us. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you much.